Why can I not fucking hear?
Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Did you ask a
Hello?
question?
No, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Okay. Can you guys hear me all right at home?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. What I am sharing with you right now are important dates that are coming, and I apologize, these lower ones probably should have been there first. Homework 8.6, which is on those fixed payment car loans, is was due yesterday. Homework 8.7 on mortgages is due tomorrow. Project 4, which deals with mortgages, is due by the 4th, which, let me just real quick double check. Is it gonna let me double check? Yes, the 4th is a week from today. You can submit it in Blackboard. If you're going to be on campus, you can hand deliver it to me. Give me just a second because somebody just came into the meeting and I have to add, was it Anthony?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, got you. I don't want to miss you on attendance. Exam 4, which deals with consumer finance, is in My Labs. You're going to put your answers in My Labs, but you're going to do all of your work on paper and submit pictures for it in the Dropboard box in Blackboard. The latest it's due by is 11:59 p.m. And please notice that this is Saturday. I want them done by Saturday so that by class next week, I will have everything except this last project, and the My Labs averages won't be quite, well, for you, they will be up to date because the last day for My Labs will be on the 2nd, which is Sunday. And so based on everything on Tuesday next week, you can make a decision as to whether you want to take the final or not. Again, the final will be optional. If you take it, I will drop the lowest test grade. If you do not take it, I will not drop a test grade. And again, assignments that were not done will be replaced with 0. Before we go too much further, I just want to make sure that I got everybody at home in attendance. Bunny, you're here?
Yep.
Anthony, how are you?
Well, yourself?
Good. Lance, how are you doing?
Doing okay, trying to make it. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm hanging in there. Terrence, I apologize for missing my office hour. What had happened was I had to drive to that meeting in Lockport, and I didn't check my email before I went, and I did my office hour in the car as I was driving, and so I didn't see your email until it was too late. But my car didn't start that day, so it was just a big hullabaloo. Alyssa, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Morgan, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. And Isaiah, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing good.
Good. Is there anybody that I missed? If not, does anybody have questions about any of this that's here? Not hearing any, then the next thing I'd like to ask is, does anybody want to look at any of the homework questions? Not hearing any questions, I want to just real quick go into my labs. Let's go to the course home and make sure everybody knows where to find things. In learning modules, content, in the folder tests and quizzes are where you're going to submit your work for test 4 by Saturday the 1st and the final exam by Wednesday the 5th. Hi, Suzanne, how are you? Good. Oh, no. All right, well, let me get you on attendance. Then I want to go back into learning modules content in projects. Over here is the wording for project number 4. And again, we went through this last class, but let me review that for this project, what you're supposed to do is find a house that you want to buy, whether it's online or in a newspaper or in a magazine. Get a picture of the house and a description of the house, just because I'm curious. Then go to this website and look at the current mortgage rates on the day that you go there for 30 and 15-year fixed rate mortgage. Then assume you're going to have a 20% down payment and monthly payments for the home you selected. Find the down payment amount and the mortgage amount. And then for that home, find both for a 30-year and a 50-year mortgage, the payment amounts, the total of the payments, and the total interest. Compare the two mortgages. What's important is that you show all of your work and any formula that you use. Does anybody have a question on the project? Then, next place I'd like to go is back in Learning Modules content, in notes, in Unit 4, where we are. There is a copy of a formula sheet. When you take your test and when you take your final, use this for the formula sheet for this unit. Actually, I take that back. For the final, I'll put in another formula sheet that will also have those statistics formulas that we were using. The other thing that's there in Unit 4 is a review for Test 4. And that's my main goal today, to go through this with you folks with a fine-tooth comb so that you're ready for Test 4. The other thing that's in Unit 4 notes is a review for the final. And these are questions that will be very, very similar to the questions that you will have on the final exam. And we can either, I'll leave it up to you folks, we can either do both reviews tonight and then not physically meet next week, or we can do the test one tonight and physically meet next week to go over the other one. After we finish the one for Test 4, let's regroup and talk about it and see what people want to do. So, where else was I going to go? I think that was all that I had wanted to show you in Blackboard. Does anybody have questions on any of that? Then what I'm going to do is reproject the information, the dates that we had at the beginning of the class. Susan, I don't think any of these are different than what we did last week. I don't know if you have them written down or not. That exam 4 is in Blackboard. Put your answers in Blackboard, submit pictures of all of your work in my lab. It must be done from this evening until Saturday at 11:59. This one's got to be done by Saturday because I plan on locking myself in a room and grading all day Sunday, so that by next class you'll have an idea as to what your standing is, whether you're going to submit that next project or take the final. The final exam will be available from May 2nd to May 5th. Again, you're going to put your answers in my labs and submit your work in Blackboard. Homework 8.6 was due yesterday. Homework 8.7 is due tomorrow. Project 4 is due by next Tuesday, the 4th. And the last day that you can work on anything in my labs is Sunday, the 2nd. If you have a pass to assignment, realize that, yes, there's a late penalty and it seems severe, but I'm going to go through after the 2nd and adjust those grades so that if anything was so late that it gave you less than half credit, I will go through and make sure you get at least half credit for anything that you got correct. I will also go through and submit zeros for missing assignments. So right now, if you have not done assignments, they're all zeros. If anybody is having issues with my labs, please talk to me privately about it after class. Does anybody want to look at either of those homework assignments? Oh, now why don't you use the Ask My Instructor button? Is it the car a question or a house question?
I want to say the point broken off.
A point is just 1%.
Okay.
1 point is 1%, 2 points is 2% of whatever your loan is.
And then you have to somehow with the down payment, you have to.
What you do is you find your down payment, you subtract it from the cost, that gives you your mortgage amount. That will be your mortgage amount. The points are an additional fee, and it's just a percentage of that mortgage amount. Did you want to open one of those questions and look at it?
Yeah, I just want to do another question. Okay, but
Was it a car question or a house question?
I believe it was a car question.
Okay, so let's open the car homework first. Do you have any recollection as to what the question number was?
You can go over, yeah, let me just.
Okay. All right, folks at home, we're just waiting to find the question that is questionable. In the meantime, folks at home, you might want to go into Blackboard and open that practice test 4. I do physically have paper copies here, but I guess I can't teleport them to you. So I will be going over a paper copy, pencil and paper. I'll tell you what, let's go through the review then, and when we take a break, after that, you can take time to look it up without panicking, or we can look it up together on this computer. Okay. All right, so if everybody's all right with that, I'm going to exit out of here. I'm going to go back to the ImageMate, and I am going to project this fine document which is one version, one of the iterations of test 4. And so this is what you'll be looking at after today until Sunday. This will be your 4th exam. If you remember correctly, we started the chapter with pretty straightforward stuff. We were looking at the relationship between fractions and percents and decimals. Can anybody let me know how, just give me a second. Yes, we are recording. I apologize, I just wanted to make sure that we were recording. Can anybody remind me how to change a fraction into a percent?
Divide.
Divide?
Yeah,
So I'm
divide,
going to take this. 3 divided by 8, which gives me 0.375. Is that my answer?
No, you have to move the decimal point 2 places to the right.
And then to change it to a percent, beautiful, we move it 2 places to the right. And so that would be 37.5%. Oops, it looks like there are 2 of those in there. I don't know why. Let's look at the next one. It would be similar, except instead of 3 divided by 8, we'll have 3 divided by 80, which gives me the decimal 0.0375. And again, to change that to a percent, we'll move 2 places and get 3.75%. Is everybody comfortable with those 2?
Yes.
Then the next 2 are similar, except rather than starting with a fraction, we're starting with the decimal. To change the decimal to a percent, again, we'll move it 2 places. So this would be 76.45%. And the next one, don't let it fool you because our original number is bigger than 1. When we move it 2 places, our percent, will be bigger than 100. That's actually 586%. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Then, next question says, an exercise machine with an original price of $750 is on sale at 18% off. What's the discount amount? I'm open to suggestions. What should we do?
Multiply 750 by 0.18.
Beautiful. We're looking for 18% of the 750. So we'll take that 0.18 and multiply it by the 750. And so when I take 0.18 times 750, I get $135. So the discount is $135. So how do I find then the sale price?
Subtract the discount
Subtract.
out from 750.
Beautiful. So 750 minus that 135 gives me 615. And is everybody all right, not just with the answers, but how to show your work? Because again, with a question like this, my labs, it's right or wrong. You either get full credit or no credit. If you want partial credit, you need to show me your work. Question 6 says, a sofa regularly sells for $880. The sale price is $827.20. Find the percent decrease of the sale price from the regular price. If you remember, to find the percent decrease, we compare the difference to the original. And so the difference would be my 880 minus my 827.20. And so when we subtract 880 minus 827.20, the difference is $52.80. Now we're going to put that $52.80 over the original 880. So when I take that difference and divide it by 880, I get 0.06, which then will change that decimal to a percent. And so the decrease is 6%. When we're looking for a percent increase or a percent decrease, we're always comparing whatever the increase or decrease is, which is the difference, what we get from subtracting, divided by whatever would be the original or the starting value.
Is this sheet on Blackboard?
This sheet that I'm going through is in Blackboard, yes. And the formula sheet is also in Blackboard. But these questions are in Blackboard. And at the end of the night, I'll take the filled in copy and scan it into Blackboard for you, okay?
Where is it on Blackboard? Is it under notes?
It's under notes, under Unit 4, under Test 4 Review, I think it's called.
Is it review for test 4?
Yep, that would be it.
Thank you.
Are we ready for the next question? Next question asks us to determine the present value that must be invested to have a future value A at a simple interest rate R after time T. For this one, you might want to look at your formula sheet. The key words there were simple interest. And when I look at that simple interest formula sheet, I see A equals P times parentheses 1 plus RT. So I'm going to write that formula. A equals P times parentheses 1 plus RT. We know A is 8,000. P is what we're looking for. 1 plus R is 15%. Does everybody remember that we need to take that percent and write it as a decimal, 0.15, when we substitute it into our formulas, times T is 3. And then we talked about the idea of order of operations. Do what's in the parentheses first. And so that gives me 8,000 is equal to P times 1.45. And then does everybody remember in solving an equation, to get the variable alone, if we're multiplying by a number, to undo that multiplication, we'll divide. And whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. So now I'm going to take my calculator, 8,000 divided by 1.45. And I get something like 5,517.2413, and it keeps on going. With these in my labs, pay attention to what's in parentheses. It says to round up to the nearest cent. So the cent would be here, but we're going to round that up. So our answer will be $5,517.25. If we're told to round up, we're not using our regular rounding rules. We're just always bringing it up. Does anybody have a question on that one? Then, the next question says, the principal P is borrowed at a simple interest rate R for a period of time T. Find the simple interest owed for the use of the money. Assume 360 days in a year. Do not round until the final answer, then round to the nearest cent as needed. Here, there's no mention of future, there's just a mention of interest. It's simple interest. So for my simple interest formula, I'm going to use that I equals PRT. We're looking for I. P is 12,500. Again, if variables are written next to each other with no symbol in between, it means we're multiplying. So we'll multiply. Be very careful. We have to take that 12% and write it as a decimal. So rather than multiplying by 12, we'll multiply part B by 0.12. And then the other thing that you have to be careful of is here, the time is in days, and we have to change it into years. When they tell us that there's 360 days in a year, that means that my 60 days, I'll divide by 360. And that's the fraction that I'll use for time. And I know that looks a little cumbersome, but that's just what we're going to type into our calculator. So let me clear this last one. I'm going to type 12,500. Whoops, we got a big reflection there. Times 0.12 times, and then I'll take 60 and divide it by 360. And when I do that, doesn't it look just like that fraction? And so, again, I have a tendency to not trust my typing. I'm going to scroll back through and make sure I typed everything correctly. Then I'll hit enter. And so my interest is $250. When they say do not round until the final answer, they're telling you don't change that fraction into a decimal and use the decimal. Because if you do, you would have rounded. Okay? So use the fraction. If that's all right, any questions on anything from that page? You'll have to excuse me for a minute, folks. Someone just walked in, so I need to get them in attendance. All right.
What formula did we use for number 7?
For number 7,
Yeah.
the question tells us that it's simple interest. And so on the formula sheet, I'm going to look at the simple interest formulas. Because it dealt with A, or the future value, I'm using that second one. Again, I'm going to stop for just a second and make sure that everybody remembers that what I'd like you to do for this test is in Blackboard, open up this formula sheet if you have the opportunity to print it out. These will be all the formulas that you use. If you were taking this test as a pencil and paper test in class, that would actually, do you see how it says up at the top, exam 4? That was actually the first page of the test when I gave a pencil and paper test, so that I do give the formulas for this test. And so are you all right with where that formula came from?
Yeah.
That's it. Where is it?
Yes.
It's in Blackboard, in Learning Modules Content, in Notes for Unit 4. Would it make your folks' lives easier if I also uploaded it in tests and quizzes and had it right next to the folder to submit your work for test 4? I'll try to remember to put it in there also. So, everybody happy with this first page? Looking at this first page, are you guys promising me you'll all get 100?
Yes.
Yeah? Good.
Yep.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Get 100. It's easier to grade perfect papers. You'll make my life easier too.
All right. I got you.
Okay. Thank you. Next, question number 9 says the principal P is borrowed at a simple interest rate R for a period time T. Find the loan's future value A, or the total amount due at time T. Again, it says simple interest. So I'm looking at my simple interest formulas. And that second one involves the A. So I'm going to use, again, A equals P times 1 plus RT. Our variables are defined for us. The only one we have to be careful of is R. R is given as a percent. We want to express that as a decimal. Moving 2 places, that would be 0.08. And so substituting, we'd get A equals 38,000 times parentheses 1 plus 0.08 times 5. Again, lion's share of the work is picking the right formula, identifying your variables, and substituting them in. From here, it's typing. Usually, you don't want to round until the very last step. So we're going to type that whole gosh darn thing in the way it looks. So we'll type that 38,000 times, open parentheses, 1 plus 0.08 times 5, close parentheses. And again, especially if your answer doesn't seem realistic, you can go through and scroll through and double check to make sure you typed things right. I'm going to hit enter, and that tells me that my future value is $53,200. Now, if you want to check after you get the answer, I think I've shown you folks this before. I can use the arrow up button and it highlights what I typed. And so if I'm questioning the answer, I can double check and make sure I typed it correctly. But we did. So that question, okay. If so, Kelly, this is what we're going over. Question 10 says, the principal represents an amount of money deposited in a savings account subject to compound interest at the given rate. How much money will be in the account after the given number of years? Well, it says compound interest. So this time I'm going to look at my compound interest formulas. We know P, we're looking for the future, so we're looking for A. So I'm going to use that formula that says A equals P times parentheses 1 plus R over N, close parentheses to the N T. I have to apologize. I didn't realize how little room there was for work on this printout that I have. I should have spaced it better. But over here in the margins, down here, let me write P we know is 5,000. Does everybody remember if the rate is 8%, R is 0.08? If it's being compounded quarterly, how many times a year would that be?
4.
4, so N is 4. T is 5. And then I think we had recommended that with these, we want to multiply NT out before we begin. So N times T would be 4 times 5, or 20. And so that gives us A equals, P is 5,000, parentheses 1 plus R is 0.08 over N is 4, to the NT, and we already multiplied those to get 20. And again, we don't want rounding errors, so we don't want to round until our final answer. And so we want to type that in pretty much the way it looks. We'll type in 5,000 times parentheses 1 plus 0.08 divided by 4, close parentheses. And with this calculator, to raise it to a power, I'm going to use that caret up. My exponent is 20. And so my future value is 7,420, whoops, what do they want? To the nearest hundredth, so to the nearest cent. $7,429, and that would round to 74 cents. And so that's the money we'll have in the future. How much interest did we earn? Does everybody remember, with compound interest, to find the interest, we're going to just take that future value, the money we take out at the end, and subtract from it our principal, the money that we put in. And that difference that $2,429.74 is the interest that we earned. Can you guys read that okay? Folks that are in the room, do you need me to make that bigger? People at home, can you read that okay? Or do you need it to be more focused or bigger?
It's fine.
No.
Any questions on question 10? Then let's look at question 11. Question 11 says, how much money should be deposited today in an account that earns 6% interest, compounded semi-annually, so that it will accumulate to $9,000 in 3 years? Does everybody see that that $9,000 is not what we have right now, but what we will have in the future, and we're looking for how much to put in now? Because we're compounding and we're looking for P, we're going to use this second compound interest formula.
How do you know we're looking?
And so that, how do you know we're looking for P?
Yeah.
Because it says, how much money do we need today? Today is the present.
So P represents present then?
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
good question. A is future. Because we know in the future you guys are all gonna get A's.
We all got dreams. What does the Y stand for?
We'll get to that one. Y stands for the yield.
Thank you.
And we'll look at that in a minute. So that gives, my formula is P equals A over parentheses 1 plus R over N to the NT. P is what we're looking for. A is 9,000. Our rate is 6%. As a decimal, that's 0.06. If it's compounded semi-annually, that means twice in 1 year. So N is 2. And our time is 3 years. So when I multiply N times T, that's 2 times 3, or 6. And I apologize. I'm writing down below. So that gives me A is 9,000 over parentheses 1 plus R is 0.06 over N is 2 to the NT, means I'm raising it to the 6th power. Again, I don't want rounding error, so I'm going to just type this whole thing in at once. First, my numerator is my 9,000. Then for the fraction bar, we'll hit division. In the denominator, we open parentheses. We'll type in that 1 plus 0.06 divided by 2. We'll close the parentheses. And then we'll carry it up for an exponent. That exponent is 6. And so when we hit equal, that's what we'll need now to get that $9,000 in 3 years. I'm going to go back over here and look at the question, though, before I write my answer. It says round up to the nearest cent. To the nearest cent would be this 35 cents, but they're telling me to round up, so I'll make it 36 cents. So my answer will be $7,537.36. I'm going to stop for a minute and ask, could everybody get that from your personal calculator? Do you want me to look? You got it? Okay, all right, I couldn't tell with the math. Which, okay, everybody at home, could you all get it from your calculator? Kelly, did you get it? Yeah. Good, great. Any questions on that one? Now, what's the Y stand for? As I look at this next question, does everybody see that it asks for the annual yield? So Y is the yield. We've got two compounded investments, and Y is the yield, so we'll be using this formula, Y equals. And so for the yield, and this one I've got lots of room for my work, thank God, Y equals parentheses 1 plus R over N, close parentheses, to the N minus 1. We're comparing these two investments in general. We don't have time. We're not worried about time. We're worried about what the interest looks like. And so this is the formula that we use. First, we're going to have 14% compounded monthly. So 14% means my R is 0.14. Again, I'm going to be real redundant tonight. Make sure you change that percent into a decimal. Monthly means that N is 12. And so for this one, we get Y equals 1 plus R 0.14 over N 12 to the 12th minus 1. When we do that, we're going to get a sort of crazy decimal. I'm going to type that in. Do you guys need to see me typing as I do it, or are you okay if I just talk through it? Typing, Y is parentheses 1 plus 0.14 over 12 divided by 12, close parentheses, raise it to the 12th power. If your calculator, when you raise it to a power, gives you a superscript, if it looks high like an exponent, you need to arrow out of that exponent. My calculator does not do that, so I don't need to. But if your exponent actually looks like an exponent, a smaller font written up above, arrow out of that before you do the minus 1. And doing that, I get 0.149342029. Now we're going to look at that next one, which is 14.25% annually. So our rate is higher, 0.1425, but our number of compounds is 1 in a year. So when we put that into the formula, we get 1 plus 0.1425 over 1, close parentheses, to the first power, minus 1.
I'm sorry, may I ask a question?
Sure enough.
You get N equals 1, is that due to because it's annually?
Yep, annually means once a year.
Thank you.
Let's do a real quick review. I think I can fit it at the bottom of this page. There's enough room. We have to remember that annually means once a year. Semi-annually means twice a year, so N would be 2. Quarterly means 4 times a year, so N is 4. Then next is monthly, which is 12 times a year, so N is 12. Then we might have weekly, and there's 52 weeks in a year, So N would be 52. And then we might have daily. And for daily, for ease in computation, we're going to use 360 days. That's a banker's year. I believe we already looked at a question that referred to that.
The banker's year.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so this one, working it out, I get the yield is 0.1425. And now I want to compare them. To compare them, I'm going to look at, let's see, this one is, did I get one down right? Yeah.
Damn, no water. That's what I'm doing.
0.14. The first digit that's different is the third digit, and this one is higher. So we'll say that the 14.2, no, I said that one was higher and then I checked the wrong one. Hello, let's redo that. The 14% compounded monthly is better. This one is 14.93% and the other is 14.25%. And so that Y formula is used for the yield, and we only use that when we're comparing two investments to see which is the best. That one okay? How's everybody doing on this second page? Are we all still working on 100? Good. Then let's wait a minute and then turn and look at the third page. Let me know when you're ready. You good? Okay. Thank you for taking it outside. Then the next one asks you to use the appropriate formula to find the value of the annuity and then to find the interest. The key word here is annuity. And we're looking for the future value. So annuity, we have these two formulas. We know what the payments are, so we know P. So we're going to use this first one that we're looking for, A, what's going on in the future. So I'm going to write that formula up above. A equals P times, two parentheses are needed here. 1 plus R over N, close parentheses, to the N T minus 1. We have to close parentheses again. And put that over R over N. And that R over N needs to be in parentheses. Identifying values, we're told that P, the payments are $50. Our rate is 6%. Again, don't forget to change that into a decimal, 0.06. If it's compounded monthly, N will be 12. Oh, we're going to do this for a long time. T is 30 years. And again, your life is much easier. You're less likely to make a careless mistake if you multiply N times T. So that would be 12 times 30, or 360. substituting in, I get P is 50 times parentheses, 1 plus 0.06 R over N, 12 to the NT, so that's the 360th power. And I look at that and think, I don't want to do this one by hand. Minus 1, close parentheses, and I'm putting that all over R is 0.06 over N is 12. Again, it's a good habit to make sure whenever you open a parentheses, you close it, and that your parentheses match up. This one matches here, this one matches here, and these match up. When I type them on the formula sheet, the outer ones are squared just to show that those guys match up and those guys match up. When you do it by hand, you can just use the rounded parentheses. And on the calculator, I'm just going to use this rounded parentheses key. So I'm going to clear. I'm going to go 50 times. Again, I have to open two parentheses. Open, open. 1 plus 0.06 divided by 12. I'm going to close that parentheses. On my calculator, I arrow up to the exponent. My exponent is 360. Again, like I said before, with your calculator, if that exponent looks like an exponent and it's in that smaller font, you have to arrow out. Then we're going to subtract 1, close parentheses. That's my numerator. And then I'm going to divide it by, my denominator is also in parentheses, 0.06 divided by 12, close. Again, if you want to double check, you can scroll through and make sure you typed all your numbers in correctly. I think we did. So I'm going to hit enter. And at the end of 30 years, if I set aside $50 a month and can earn 6%, I will have $50,225, and they say to round to the nearest dollar. So actually, I was mistaken. I'll have $50,226. The second part of the question, oh, and they do have a formula bank here. I didn't see that. Second part of the question asks how much of that is interest. Well, to find the interest, we need to find our total payments. And for that, we're depositing $50 360 times. And so when I take that 50 times the 360, we're putting in $18,000. The interest is the difference between the future value, that $50,226, and what we put in. Of that money, $18,000 was ours, and the rest the bank gave us. And so when we subtract that 5226 minus the 18,000, we earned $32,226 in interest. Let me put these on the right lines. And again, I think at the beginning of this unit, I apologize. The interest rates in these problems are a little bit higher than what you're going to earn right now. but notice that our money, almost tripled. Right? Pretty cool. Any questions on that question number 13?
For the sheet that you have uploaded, you have different questions though, right?
Oh, is this one different questions than the one that I posted? I apologize.
No, you're fine. It's pretty much the same questions. It's just different numbers, that's all.
Right. And so I'm guessing that you can guess that on your test, it'll pretty much be the same questions, but different numbers.
Right. Okay, thank you.
So. I apologize. I thought I printed this up from the same PDF that I had uploaded. Question 14 says, use the appropriate formula to find the deposit. Find the financial goal comes from deposits and how much from interest. And so here, this time we're looking for the periodic deposit, or we're looking for P. And so this time we'll use that formula that solves for P. Up above, the future value that we want is $220,000. The rate that we're receiving is 6.5%, which again, we have to change that into a decimal, 0.065. The time is 15 years. And they say we're doing this monthly, so N is 12. And so when I multiply N times T, 15 times 12 will give me 180. So when I substitute into the formula, A is 220,000, R is 0.065 over N is 12, close those parentheses, over, open two parentheses, 1 plus that 0.065 over 12, close parentheses. The NT, again, we pre-multiplied, so that's the 180th power minus 1, close parentheses. And I know initially it seems overwhelming, but we're going to just type into our calculator what that looks like, the way we wrote it. So I'm going to clear that last work. I'm going to type in that 220,000 times parentheses 0.065 over 12, close parentheses. And that looks like my numerator. I'm going to divide to get to the denominator. Two parentheses, 1 plus 0.065 divided by 12, close parentheses. Arrow up, my exponent is 180. Again, if yours looks like an exponent, you've got to arrow out of that exponent. Then I'm going to subtract 1 and close the parentheses. Again, if you want to, you can scroll through and make sure that what we did first looks like the numerator, and what we did after that division looks like our denominator. And when I hit enter, I get 724.769.5. Now I'm going to look at the question again. The question asks me to round up to the nearest dollar. So rounding up to the nearest dollar, I'll say $725. For part B, that first line, they want the total of the deposits or payments. And again, here we're paying $725 NT 180 times. So we're putting in $130,500. And again, the interest is the difference between the future value and the payments. And so when I do that subtraction, the interest is $89,500. Any questions on that one? Are we happy with this fourth page? If so, we've got two more questions. Again, these questions take a little bit longer, and so that's why there are fewer on this test than there were on the preceding test. So, question 15 says, suppose you borrow $15,000 for 3 years at 6% towards the purchase of a car. Use the payment formula there to find the monthly payments and the total interest for the loan. I have issues with that formula. Go ahead. This is a review for the test. Okay, this is just a test on chapter 8. Okay? We're going over the review, and then you're going to take it on your own. And you can have, from end of class today, it's due Sunday. The test is in my lab, and you're going to take a picture of your work and submit it in Blackboard. If you have traditionally had problems submitting that in Blackboard, the same after you submit it in Blackboard, send it to me as an email, okay? But I have a little bit of a problem with this formula. Technically, it's correct, but if you notice, when I typed it, I made sure to put big parentheses around the denominator, because it's been my experience that if those parentheses are not written for you around the denominator, most students forget to put them in, and you need those parentheses around that denominator. So here again, I apologize. I don't have that much room in which to show my work, but we're borrowing $15,000, so that'll be my P. Our rate is 6%, and I know I sound redundant, but don't forget to change that into a decimal. Our time is 3 years. Sometimes it's hard to find that word, but we're making monthly payments. So N is 12. And so that exponent, N times T, will be 12 times 3, or 36. But again, be very, very careful. It's important to remember that this exponent is negative. So when I substitute in, I get, notice it says do not round until the final answer. They're telling us to do it all at once. P is 15,000 times, in parentheses, R is 0.06 over N is 12 over parentheses 1 minus parentheses 1 plus R again is 0.06 over N is 12 to the negative NT is 36. So I'm going to clear what's in here from the last problem. I'm going to take 15,000 times parentheses 0.06 over 12 divided by 12, close parentheses. I'm going to hit division to go to the denominator of the fraction, parentheses 1 minus parentheses 1 plus 0.06 divided by 12, close parentheses. Going to carry it up for the exponent. And again, remember to put a negative number. I want to use this negative sign at the bottom in parentheses, negative 36. Again, if you have your exponent is superscript, arrow out, close the parentheses, and hit enter. Doing this, my calculator is giving me 456.32906. Don't round to the final answer, and then round to the nearest cent as needed. Go to the nearest cent. Is everybody all right? That would be $456.33.
Can you show how you put it in the calculator again? Because I got an error for mine. I think I did it wrong.
Okay, do you have the same calculator as I?
Yeah, I have the exact same one.
Okay, what I want you to do is arrow up, and when you arrow up, it should be on top of what you typed in.
Oh, I cleared
And so
it.
let's check.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, arrow up, and it should, you can still arrow up and get back to it.
It's still there. Okay.
It's still there. Do you have 15,000? Make sure you have 3 zeros times parentheses 0.06 divided by 12, close parentheses. Then another division bar to get to the bottom of the fraction, parentheses 1
Second, I'm sorry.
minus,
I'm like,
say that again?
I'm fixing it as you speak. I'm sorry.
Okay, and honestly, when you're arrowed up there, you can just type over your mistake. You don't have to redo the whole thing,
So
if you can find your mistake.
I have a different question. It's 0.08 divided by 12, and then you divide parenthesis.
It's 0.06 divided by 12.
I know, I have a different question for mine. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, then your answers will be a little bit different. Then it's divided by parentheses 1 minus parentheses 1 plus 0.06 divided by 12 again, close parentheses, arrow up to the exponent, and remember that exponent is negative, negative 36, close.
Okay. Oh, it worked this time. Thank you.
Okay. And again, I know these are a bitch to type, and so if you write the formula on your work paper, identify the variables on your work paper, and show me the substitution on your work paper, you can still get almost full credit, even if you typed wrong. But if you don't show me that in a neat and organized way, then you can't get partial credit if all I have is wrong answer to look at. So the total interest for the loan, well, for the total interest, we have to find, and I apologize, I've run out of room. We'll see if we can fit it in here. The total that we're paying, well, the total we're paying is at $456.33 NT. We're paying it 36 times. And so we're paying 456.33 times 36 So we're paying 16,427, I'm sorry, it's not gonna fit in there. $16,427.88. We borrowed 15,000. So when we subtract, the interest is $1,427.88. Again, the interest, I'll write it up here, will always be the total of the payments minus the loan amount. And not to be redundant, but again, the more work you show, identifying your variable, writing down the formula, showing your substitution, the more partial credit I can give you. Again, make sure you change that percent into a decimal when you use it in a formula. Yeah?
The one we just did, the total from a loan,
Uh-huh,
so we take the 456.33 times 36,
uh-huh.
and then what is the
To get the, interest, we're gonna subtract the amount that we borrowed. So that's at 16,427.88 minus the 15,000. Okay? Thank you for asking. And then the last question is what your project will be somewhat like. It deals with a mortgage. Notice it's got alphabet soup going on here, parts A through E. We're told to use that payment formula to determine the regular payment amount rounded to the nearest dollar. The price of the home is $100,000. The bank requires 20% down payment, 3 points at closing. The cost of home is financed with a 30-year fixed rate mortgage at 7.5%. Complete A through E below. For the down payment, we're going to use 20% down payment. So we're going to take 20% of the cost of the home. And so that gives me $20,000 down. I think that part's straightforward enough. So we're paying $20,000 up front for this house. The house costs $100,000. So does it make sense to find that the amount of the mortgage, what we have to borrow, we'll take that cost and subtract what we paid already. So we still owe $80,000. And so that's how much we'll borrow. Again, we were discussing this at the beginning of class. 3 points just means 3% of the mortgage. So 3% is 0.03 times that $80,000 gives us, I'm thinking it's 2,400, but I'm tired, so I'm going to check on the calculator. Yep, $2,400. That's a standalone answer. It doesn't get added to our mortgage. It's just a processing fee we have to pay the lender. Next is the lion's share of the work. To find the monthly payments, we're going to use our payment formula. Payment equals P times R over N over parentheses 1 minus parentheses 1 plus R over N, close parentheses to the negative NT, close again, P is the mortgage amount, so that'll be our $80,000. R is the rate of the loan, and so R is 7.5%, which will be as a decimal 0.075. We're looking for monthly payments. So here we're told that N is 12. We're told it's a 30-year loan, so T is 30. So when I multiply N times T, we're making 12 times 30, or we're making, wow, 360 payments. So putting that into our formula, we get that the payment is P, the $80,000, times parentheses R, the 0.075 over N, 12, over parentheses 1 minus parentheses 1 plus R, 0.075 over N. I'm sorry, I said N, and I meant to write 12. I apologize. Close parentheses to the negative. Remember that exponent is negative 360. So when I go to type that in, I'm typing 80,000 times parentheses 0.075 divided by 12, close parentheses. That's my numerator. Then I'm going to go divide it by, and I'll type in my denominator, parentheses, 1 minus, parentheses, 1 plus 0.075 divided by 12, close parentheses. For the exponent, I'm going to use that arrow up button, and I'm going to use this negative down below, 360, close. And so on our $80,000 mortgage, our payments are going to be, let's see, what do they want? They want us to round to the nearest dollar. My calculator gives me 559.37. So they do not have the words round up, so we're just going to round to that $559. Then, part E, to find the total interest, we have to first find the total of the payments. So we're paying $559 times NT is 360. And 12 times a year for 30 years means we're making 360 payments. So when I take that 559 times the 360, I get that I am paying, whoa, $201,240. I borrowed $80,000. And so subtracting the interest is $121,240. And there you go. And again, these questions were picked to make it very similar to my old pencil and paper test. The difference with my old pencil and paper test, the questions were each weighted differently. This last question was probably worth about 12, 15 points because of all of the parts. In my labs, they're all weighted equally, so take it as you will. Does anybody have any questions on this? No, it means you borrowed $80,000, you paid back $200,000, so your donation to the bank for letting them letting you use that $80,000 for 30 years, you paid an extra $120,000. That's kind of high because this, again, the questions in the book are a little bit old, and the interest rate was 7.5%. I think current interest rates are closer to 4%. And so right now, mortgages aren't that bad. But the first house my husband and I bought, the interest rate we got was 13%. And so 13%, and I think our first house cost us like $75,000. We were paying over $1,000 a month. But that's because back a million years ago, before any of you were even a glimmer in your parents' eyes, back when, oh my God, Ronald Reagan was president, interest rates were ridiculously high. So I felt very bad at that point in time. At that point in time, I'm going off on a tangent now. I was working as a community organizer in the Midwest, and farmers who have to borrow every year before they put their crops in, they were paying 25% interest. And so we were part of a national organization that actually got public hearings with the president of the Federal Reserve Bank at the point in time, Paul Volcker. And so I was able to organize a hearing for the farmers to yell at Paul Volcker. So something different anyways. But anyways, that's what the test is like. What do you folks think? Is this doable? I'm going to scan this in, and because somebody at home, I'm going to double check real quick. Somebody at home told me that these problems are ever so slightly different than the ones that are in the review that I put in the notes for Unit 4. And so I guess if you want, yeah, the numbers are different. When I get home, I can't scan it in from home, but I can use the touch screen to write like I did on this paper on the one that's uploaded here. Do you guys want the answers to a second review
Yes.
sheet so that
Yes,
you can
just so
try
I
it
can
again?
verify it.
Say that again?
Yes, just so I can verify my answers.
Sure. So I will go through and I will do that. If not tonight, first thing tomorrow morning. I am rethinking, and I know initially I threw out there the possibility of saying, hey, let's do the review for the final exam tonight and not meet next week. And as much as it might be nice to have off next week, I'm thinking that this review for the final exam might be more useful to you if everybody promises me. I will go through and make sure that I'm using the exact same one that's in Blackboard. Could everybody please promise me between now and next week, after you finish this taking test 4, that you'll go through and you'll look at this review? All of the questions should look familiar because they're all the same questions that were on tests. Just, again, the numbers might be changed. And so after you try it on your own, let's go through it, because I know that it's really important that you need to be able to do it on your own. And so try them on your own, and we will go over this other review sheet for the final exam next week. Does that sound all right?
Yes.
Yes.
Otherwise, this was all that I had planned to do tonight. We could go through this review for the test again and create that other answer sheet, or we can, call it a day, just answer whatever questions you folks might have, or if anybody wants to start skimming through that final review, we can look at questions there. I guess this was all I had planned for tonight, but I am with you folks until 9 if need be, right? So that, what do you guys want to do right now?
I'm okay with stopping.
I want you to get home early, honestly.
Okay, I appreciate the concern. So if you're all right, let's say, what do I want to do? I want to go back to, well, I guess I'm going to leave it here. Let's say that if you're comfortable with this review and you want to leave now, fine. I know that you had questions about some of the homework questions, so let's take a 10-minute break and then come back and look at the homework questions. If anybody else has questions on any of the homework questions or on this review document, that's fine. I'm going to pause the recording for a minute. If that doesn't work, please feel comfortable using the, as my instructor. So I have this question. I'm going to write it on the sheet of paper so that we can do it. And so folks at home, we're looking at homework 8.4, question number, what question number? 13, okay. And so what we're doing is we're depositing $1,000 in an account that pays 8% compound semi-annually for 2 years. After 2 years, the interest rate changes to 8.52% compounded. The numbers changed a little bit each time. So, okay. Quarterly. And we want to know what the value is after 4 years. And I'm guessing that that's a total of 4 years. So this is just a regular compound interest account. A equals P times 1 plus R over N to the NT. To start with, P is $1,000. R is 8%. Semi-annually is twice a year. T is 2 years. So NT would be 2 times 2, or 4. So after the first 2 years, we have, I apologize, P is 1,000. 1 plus R is 0.08 over N is 2. To the NT would be to the 4th. And am I just talking at you, or does that make sense? Okay, so I'm gonna calculate that up, 1,000 times parentheses 1 plus 0.08 divided by 2, close parentheses, raised to the 4th.
So this is 2 years?
This is for the first 2 years.
Okay.
And so that gives me $1,169, and I'm gonna do it to the nearest cent, 86 cents. after the first 2 years. Then it changes in our favor. Now for the second 2 years, and we want the second 2 years because we want a total of 4 years. Now our principal is the 1169.86. Now our rate is 0.0852. The rate went up. It's compounded quarterly, so N is 4. We're leaving it in there for another 2 years. So NT is 4 times 2, or 8. And so after the second 2 years, that 1169.86 that we started with, well, it's going to be at 0.0852% compounded quarterly. So there'll be 8 compounds. And so when I take that 1169.86 times parentheses 1 plus, whoops, it would help if I press the right button, 1 plus 0.0852 divided by 4, close, raised to the 8th. I have $1,384.72. They said to the nearest dollar, so I'll have $1,385. And yay, they liked it. And people at home, I have to apologize because I switched it to the document camera, but I forgot to switch to you viewing ImageMate. At some point in time, I apologize. All of the technology overwhelms me. Everybody all right with that problem? Great. Is there another one that we want to look at? You're okay? I like it. All right. How about folks at home? Is there anything that either you, Morgan, or Terrence want to look at? Are you there?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Did you say something?
Yeah, is there anything else that in particular that you wanted to look at?
No, I'm okay. I'm sorry. I'm babysitting, so I'm slightly distracted.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, how old's the baby?
4 months.
Oh, what fun. Well, enjoy the baby, and if you don't have any more questions, we'll call it a night, unless Terrence has questions. Okay, bye-bye. Terrence, did you have any questions? Terrence, are you there? All right, I'm going to end the meeting. Good night. Bye-bye.